And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Today we're taking a quick look at WWE 2K22. Now, we've been covering these games for quite a while now, and last year the yearly franchise actually took a year off. This newer style of 2K wrestling game was never perfect, but it felt like it was seriously starting to drop off, with the quality and the amount of content kind of roller coastering with each release. 2K20 was really rough. Thankfully, it seems like taking a year off did them some good, because this one is much more solid. It's not perfect, but it's on its way back. It also has a lot of microtransactions, so yeah, let's just dive in. At the base level, the real meat, the gameplay, this is where the game is much stronger. Just base level wrestling matches are so fun to play now. Where previous games leaned hard into realistic technical simulation in some aspects of the gameplay, it wasn't always fun. Now it takes some of those concepts and makes it faster and more engaging. Grappling is more simplified and less awkward. Reversals are still in the same way, but striking is vastly improved with cool combos and the ability to chain those into insane over-the-top grapples. Most of those annoying submission mini games and like weird little extra things you gotta worry about on the HUD by your health bar, all that stuff is gone, which is great because I did not like a lot of that stuff at all, and it just works to keep matches still very much like push and pull and give and take, but way more entertaining to execute. I wouldn't say it's dumbed down, but slightly streamlined and a better balance of the technicalness and just good old arcade style brawling. There's still a level of mastery required, but it's much easier to just jump in and get doing cool shit. To me, it feels like the best playing modern WWE 2K game. That might not be saying much for some people, but I found it just way more straight up fun compared to other recent games. It's still not perfect. Some aspects like positioning stuff can be frustrating. There's some clipping sometimes with some weird glitchiness, but overall, the raw gameplay is the best part of the game. Then, of course, there's all the modes, all the content. Now, we don't have time to get into all of them too deeply, but it's notable to point out that GM mode is back in. It's called My GM. It's been a while. This lets you kind of manage out a whole WWE campaign by picking a character, forming a roster, organizing fights and lineups and rivalries and marketing. And it might be cool if you're a big wrestling nerd. I don't know how much depth it really has for longevity, but it's there if you want it. Then there's also Showcase mode. This time around, it's focusing on the complete career history of Rey Mysterio. Now, I love these modes. I really love the Stone Cold one a few years back. Showcase mode is like a sequence of matches based on real matches throughout wrestling history that are broken up with documentary-style clips, with Rey Mysterio actually narrating the whole thing and talking you through his career. The way it flips between gameplay and classic wrestling footage just straight up, for me, never gets old. And the curated matches are fun. The only problem is that this time around it really focuses on like wanting you to do exact specific moves and positions to progress, and it kind of breaks the flow a little bit sometimes, because sometimes that stuff is tricky or finicky to pull off. But still, Showcase mode, even just as a concept, continues to be pretty awesome for me personally. I've kind of found myself, like, even with a lot of these games having problems, always just looking forward to seeing who they're going to highlight in the next Showcase mode. Also, My Rise is here again as kind of like a career progression story mode with cutscenes and decisions to make, a morality system and customization, and it's way less cringeworthy than it has been in the past, but it's still not great. There are now separate career paths for both male and female fighters, which is really cool, and the character creator is once again here to make whatever weird character you want. It's not quite as deep as I was hoping, and loading in the items takes way too long and kills the fun a little bit, but yeah. Still, the ability to create a bunch of stuff, more than just your character, is nice. You can spend a lot of time in all that, and once again, if you're into it, it's mostly worth it. Now that My Rise mode itself, like I said, is really for die-hard WWE fans who just love the whole, I don't know, corporation or whatever, but it's really ugly to look at. The voice acting is okay, thankfully, but characters are awkward and glitchy, and sometimes it's just painful. And that's a damn shame because most of the time, like in just regular old matches, the visuals are pretty decent. You know, in certain lighting, it can still look a little off, but mostly characters sweat, they get bruised, they have muscle definition, and some really good animations. And yeah, every so often, characters like will float a little bit off the ground or clip, but most of the time, there are some really impressive moves going off and seamlessly chaining together, all while the camera angle will like sometimes shift for more cinematic views. The presentation is simple and good, and technically wise, even if it's got some bumps here and there, it's not a complete disaster like previous games. Then there's My Faction mode, which is kind of like an NBA 2K My Team mode, I think it's called, or like FIFA Ultimate Team mode. So yeah, that's what you need to know. It's basically microtransaction mode. This stuff straight up does not appeal to me at all. Like, it just wants you to spend more money, and I'm not really interested in that at all. Microtransactions here and like some wrestlers being able to be unlocked in a store just really sours the taste here, man. I thought we were getting better about this stuff, but I guess not, at least not for 2K. This makes the game feel like kind of a step backwards, and it's a shame because they finally figured out that core gameplay and made it actually fun. So I do think WWE 2K22 does go beyond being another just yearly release. They took feedback and made a significantly better game, but it still has more to go. The microtransactions are not good, and as much as there's a bunch of modes and the ability to create your own stuff, your mileage with each individual mode or thing will vary depending on what type of player you are. If they keep going from here, it can only get better, but will it ever reach the heights of those awesome THQ games, you know, all those awesome wrestling games from N64 up to like PlayStation 2? I don't know. That is, of course, me as an older school fan with different wants and expectations. I think there's a lot of different types of people that enjoy wrestling and probably want different things out of the games. So this is how a Before You Buy works. We give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. Now that you know about the game, we want to hear from you in the comments. Like, what are you thinking? Did you jump in? Have you been burned too many times by WWE 2K games and you're still holding off? I totally understand where you're coming from. There has been some rough ones in the last few years. If you have jumped into this one, do you think it's done enough to really kind of win you back over as a customer, as a fan, as a player, whatever? Are you okay with the microtransactions, or do you dislike them as much as we do? Let's talk about anything WWE 2K down in the comments. We'd love to hear your favorite of the 2K franchises, really anything. So let us know. Look at this roll up on a camera. The structure is intimidating. Is the hell waiting for him to make it. If this video helped you out, maybe gave you some information, got to see some gameplay, this was all running on PS5. If you appreciated any of that, clicking the like button is all you gotta do. It very much helps us out. But if you're new, consider subscribing and maybe hitting that notification bell because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.